Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we are looking at a Gibson GA-15 Goldtone, which is essentially a Trace Elliot Velocette. In fact, when we pop it open, you'll see that the PCB is still branded Trace Elliot. This amp dates to 1999, which, as I understand it, is basically the year after Gibson acquired Trace Elliot. So it's a cool amp, cosmetically still in great shape, although it does have a little bit of peeling around the edges of the Tolex, which from what I understand is pretty typical of these. Little backstory about how I acquired this. I got this from a guy locally here in Atlanta. He was the original owner, had gone to sell it on Reverb, packed it up, shipped it off, and the guy who bought it reported back that he fired it up and started pouring smoke. So when we look at the PCB, you'll see why. So he kept that around for a little bit, and he was kind of partying it out. He was gonna like do a point-to-point thing with it and just rehouse it, and never got around to it. Ultimately, I picked it up from him for a couple bucks, and looking at it, it's going to be an easy fix because there's the obvious places where it flamed out are due to underrated resistors, which is probably a manufacturing thing. But I suspect that the buyer either I don't think he hooked it up without the speaker, but maybe he was rolling tubes in it and put a shorted tube in it and just didn't, just let it cook on there. So anyway, let's pop it open. You can take a look. I'll show you what I did. It's working again. It sounds great. It's a great sounding amp. It's just, for as small as it is, it's awesome. The clean tones are magnificent. Takes pedals really, really good. Driven by two EL84s. It's really simple controls. It's got a volume control, it's got a tone control, and it's got a bright switch, and that's it. So let's take a look. So as you can see, there's the board. Still branded Trace Elliot. Like I said, this amp is from 99. Yeah, 99 was the build date. So once opening it up, it's pretty easy to see what was going on here. We got a bad burn mark there. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but let's see if we can get some more light down there. Yeah, we had a flame out there as well. So we had pretty disastrous situation happening in the power section. And what I noticed is if you look at where I've replaced this with a 10 watt, of course it was burned out, so I had to do some trace replacement on the bottom. Clean that spot up as best as I could get it, but it is just burned through to the fiber in some places. Doesn't seem to cause any problems right now. And fortunately, they still make these boards. So if you want to do a full replacement of the board, you certainly could do that. But I just wanted to get it running and playing, and it sounds pretty good. So the other thing we did is we beefed up R25, R26. You can see there, I think they were rated 1 watts. We put 3s in there. And this, failure point here, it's rated in the schematic at 4 watts, but what they had in there was a lot lower. I think there was a 3 watt in there, and so of course, in the interest of overkill, put the big 10 watt cement resistor in there. I also replaced this one. It was rated for 4 watts, I believe, and it had either a 2 or 3 in there. So I replaced that while I was in here. Replaced these filter caps with F&Ts, give it a little more lifespan. A few places where I popped in some Mallory's, you know, right there. I think they just had some kind of cheapo capacitor in there, so we threw those in there. Like I said, beefed up these screen resistors. I did change out the diodes in the solid state rectifier here, as well as we've got these little tantalum caps in there. I replaced those. So let's take a quick look at the schematic here. Right here is our failure point. That's R32. You can see here it's rated at 4 watts, which is interesting because the parts list actually has it rated at 6 watt. The one that I pulled from there, I believe, was only a 2 or 3 watt. So, you know, it's just one of those things when things are built at a price point, sometimes corners are cut. One of the things you first notice in this amp is that there's a lot of 0 ohm resistors, which if you've never seen them before, it's just a jumper, but it's something you see in amps that are built, like factory built rather than hand built, because it's easy to load the machine with a 0 ohm resistor than it is a actual jumper wire. So, you know, that's something there's quite a few of in this amp. Obviously a mass produced item. So if we look here at R32, we see that it's connected to G2. Well, if we come over here, find our G2. G2, that connects to our screens. And that is undoubtedly where the problem came from. Now, I suspect in some, it's not completely unimaginable that that they just failed. However, it occurs to me that if this amp has been working fine for 30-something years, and somebody pulls the tube and packs it up and ships it off, and then suddenly we have a catastrophic problem, I wonder if there's not some kind of user error, or, you know, maybe the buyer was rolling tubes in it and, you know, put in something that was shorted. You know, of course, we'll never know for sure, but that would be, I think, a pretty good guess. So we replaced that. We replaced these grid stoppers as well and kind of beefed those up because they were a smaller rated resistor as well. And that's really all it took to get this thing running again. The other thing is that whatever they did, they left it on for a really long time. This thing must have been pouring smoke because that board is so scorched. I can't imagine somebody just leaving it on and letting it go like that. Of course, you know, I guess I could just consider myself lucky that all the iron tests fine. So fortunately, it didn't destroy any of the transformers. So here we are, we got a button back up. You know, honestly, with the PCB in the shape that it is, I would be reticent to sell this, which is fine because I intend to kind of keep it for my collection for a little bit. The good news is that they still have these boards floating around the internet. So if you wanted to like just totally repopulate a new board and pop it in, you could certainly do that. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to keep it for a little while. And it's a great sounding little amp.